welcome to the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History for another installment of this series that celebrates great Americans. Tonight, Billie Jean King. Well, friends, what is greatness? The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca the Younger wrote, "Confragos in fastigium dignitatis via est." Or, in your language, it is a rough road that leads to the height of greatness. Now, aren't you glad my parents insisted I took 4 years of Latin? Absolutely. Well, Billie Jean King, in my view, embodies that truth, having faced discrimination and sexism along the figurative and literal road to her career. Despite that, she has never stopped advancing the cause of equality. Sports figures, as you know, are particularly able to inspire and raise awareness about social inequities, and their images are indelible. John Carlos and Tommy Smith's fists raised in unity against racial oppression. Muhammad Ali refusing to go to war. Thank you. Muhammad Ali refusing to go to war in Vietnam, risking his heavyweight title and his freedom rather than compromise his religious convictions. The general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey, who signed Jackie Robinson, enabling him to break Major League Baseball's color barrier. Tennis great Arthur Ashe, a civil rights icon and an activist who helped change the way we see and treat people with HIV. And more recently, NFL athletes' decisions whether or not to protest during our national anthem mirror the discussions we are still having as a nation. Ms. King is firmly entrenched in the tradition of athletes speaking out. She spoke out at a time where women were told to remain silent. She argued for equal opportunity and equal pay, even if the prevailing attitude at the time was that men deserved higher salaries. It would be nice to think that that attitude was merely a relic of the past, but arguably the most dominant athlete in the world, Serena Williams, makes a fraction of her male counterparts. Yes, unfortunately, it's clear we still have a long way to go. We still need Ms. King's example to remind us to keep fighting for what we know is right. One of our exciting projects at the Smithsonian will add to the national conversation the Smithsonian American Women's History Initiative. With the theme, "Because of Her Story," it will amplify the voices of women across all the museums of the Smithsonian, reach diverse and international audiences, and empower and inspire people with the stories of women who defined greatness. Ms. King once remarked, "I've never cared that much for cementing my place in history." Well, that may be true, but your actions and contributions to society have done that for you. Thank you for all your inspiration, and on behalf of all of us, Ms. King, welcome to the Smithsonian.
Thank you to our 13th Secretary, Dr. David Skorton, for your words today, highlighting our honoree, Billie Jean King, and her important contributions to American history. Secretary Skorton has emphasized that we must convene the most important conversations that drive this nation and our world to new places and insights. So I am pleased to welcome you to your National Museum of American History and to one of those conversations tonight. We honor Billie Jean King as the 5th recipient of the Great Americans Medal. Ms. King is a global sports icon and social justice pioneer who uses her platform to forge a better future for those who follow. Her advocacy has a wide reach, from shattering gender stereotypes in sports to a compassionate response to the AIDS crisis. She has a fearless dedication to equality for all people, and we are profoundly grateful for her service to the nation. And of course, thank you to our great friend, David M. Rubenstein, Chair of the Smithsonian Institution Board of Regents and National Museum of American History Board member. We celebrate his astounding generosity and intellectual focus. We all benefit from his commitment to making complex histories accessible to the American public. We'd also like to thank Museum Board member Jeff Garrett, here with us tonight with his wife Mary Lynn, for making possible the presentation of the Great Americans medal themselves, cast in fine gold and designed by Michael Guilfoyle. It's wonderful that so many distinguished guests are here with us tonight, like our board member, the Honorable Barbara Franklin. We'd also like to welcome members of the Washington Tennis and Education Foundation, Global Sports Mentoring Program, and Girl Scouts of the nation's capital. These organizations are living proof that Billie Jean King's activism has expanded opportunities for future generations. Our museum's mission is clear. We help people to understand the past in order to make sense of the present and shape a more humane future. We're thrilled to host Billie Jean King tonight because her life embodies these principles. The museum cares for and preserves Miss King's Battle of the Sexes tennis dress and blue shoes. She wore these in 1973 and generously donated them to us. It is one of the Smithsonian's treasures and housed alongside artifacts from other sports icons who forged social change, like Althea Gibson, Jackie Robinson, and Roberto Clemente. We will showcase stories like theirs in our exhibits opening soon upstairs. Next month, we open the first phase of the West Wing's third floor. This is part of our ongoing reinvention of the museum's public spaces. We've already opened new exhibits on the first two floors that explore critical issues in American history, such as democracy, opportunity, and freedom. On the third floor, visitors will discover the power of entertainment and sports to captivate, inspire, and transform us. The American experience is on display on the silver screen, on the field, and on the court. Leaders like Billie Jean King emerge as powerful forces, and her leadership remains as essential as ever. Tonight, David Rubenstein and Billie Jean King will explore what it means to be a great American. Her lifetime of service is filled with energy and determination, so we are in for a memorable night. But first, let's learn a bit more about this great American.
It is not what we can get out of life, it is what we can give to life.
One of the greatest tennis champions of all time, Billie Jean King has also been a tireless champion for equal rights.
What she did to broaden the reach of the game, to change how women athletes and women everywhere view themselves, and to give everyone, regardless of gender or sexual orientation, a chance to compete both on the court and in life.
Even though she won 39 Grand Slam titles, Billie Jean's influence off the court is just as impressive. A double accomplishment for the newest member on the team of great Americans. Born in Southern California to an athletic family, Billie Jean was first a softball player. Picking up her first racket at the age of 11, she showed promise on the public courts in Long Beach.
Life is a series of sprints. You get to start over and over and over again, always adapting to the long and winding road in front of you.
She became known for her quickness and within a few years had started winning Grand Slam matches.
It's about staying in the process, and that each win, each tournament you win, it just keeps developing your game so you can be the best you can be.
Over the next 15 years, this ace won 168 championships and was often ranked #1 in the world.
As a player, she was a pain in the ass.
Her strategy was just to give me junk, just to slice and hit topspin and drop shot and give me no pace.
At the same time, she began a battle to change tennis.
I noticed everybody in my sport wore white shoes, white socks, white clothes. Everybody who played was white, and I asked, where's everybody else? And that's when I dedicated my life to equality for everyone, men, women, everybody, all genders.
She became a fierce advocate for equal pay.
See, the more you win, the more opportunities you have to do this, to spread the word. And if you're number one, they'll listen more.
Because men were being awarded up to 10 times what female prize winners were getting, she and 8 other players started their own tour. In 1973, to further promote women's equality, Billie Jean accepted the challenge to play Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes. King whomped the self-described huckster in straight sets.
To me, it was about social change. I was afraid if I did not win, we would give people a reason to weaken Title IX.
The dress that she wore in that momentous match is now one of the treasures of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. Younger generations became familiar with the Hollywood version of her story when Emma Stone took on the role of Billie Jean.
A lot of backspin on that ball. King handles it.
Next up for Billie Jean, starring on the World Team Tennis League, first as a player, then as an owner. On these courts, women and men contributed equally to their teams.
Winner of 39 Grand Slam title events. Founder of the Women's Tennis Association.
In 1987, Billie Jean was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame.
And the generations that came before me, I thank them, and hopefully we've helped the future generations.
She's relentless in the fact that she wants to do and make a difference.
Despite the awards and acclaim, her friend Elton John knows what continues to motivate her.
She can't walk by a tennis court without going by and saying to the kid, "No, you're doing this wrong, let me help."
Since 2006, the U.S. Open has been played at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center.
What would we do without Billie Jean? Where would we be without Billie Jean?
When you look at life, what do you think is more important, really? To me, this is so simple. If I can help make the world a better place, or if I can say I won 21 Wimbledons, seriously, what's more important? For me personally, that's what makes me go.
In 2009, she was awarded the Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest award for a civilian.
We honor what she calls all of the off-the-court stuff.
That off-the-court stuff? The relentless fight for gender equality, her commitment to social justice, always looking to improve access for all, is what makes Billie Jean King truly a great American.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are paper straws, by the way. This one, you don't have one.
So, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Dave. It's good to see you again.
And let me start first talking about your tennis career, and then we'll talk about your career on inclusion, equality, and social justice, if we could. And then we'll wrap it up with some other things you've been doing lately, okay?
Wow, wait a minute.
All right. So,
when I was playing, I was also a business person, so.
Well,
I'm getting tired thinking about it.
Now, you're a pretty good business person, too. You just became an owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's a
yes,
pretty good
Ilana
investment.
and I just became owners of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if you're an LA kid, which I'm from Long Beach, my younger brother and I, we kind of, in 1958, the Dodgers came to California, and of course, I was so excited. I was about 14 years old then. So we've done full circle.
And your brother was a Major League Baseball player.
12 years, but this is the ironic part. Most of those years were with the San Francisco Giants, and they're the rivalries. So I was upset with the Dodgers when they didn't draft Randy. Randy Moffett is his name. Moffat's my birth name. So I was upset when they didn't draft Randy. So, but we've come full circle. Randy and I, he teases me, but he's thrilled at the same time because we did grow up with the Dodgers.
Well, your revenge is that now you own the Dodgers, and so this gets back to the Giants for not
doing it, right? I mean, come on, opportunity. No.
So you grew up in Long Beach. Long Beach is a very nice community, kind of part of LA in some ways. Most people, when you were growing up, who played tennis were from, let's say, upper income families. They were country club members. Your family was not. Your father was a blue collar worker?
Right, as a firefighter.
So how did you actually afford the lessons to play tennis, and where did you get the chance to play?
Well, first of all, the reason I was able to play because it was free and it was accessible. And the Park and Rec of Long Beach, the whole city, provided free instruction every week. I love that little baby sound. I love it. It's so sweet. So anyway, I was really lucky. I was playing softball, and Susan Williams, who had asked me to play in 5th grade, because I said, "What's tennis?" She says, "Do you want to play tennis?" And I go, "What's tennis?"
Okay.
And I said, "What do you do?" And she says, "You get to run, jump, and hit a ball." And I go, "Those are my 3 most favorite things, in sports. I'll try that." So we tried it, but she belonged to a country club, so I thought there would be no way I'd get to play. But then we're out playing softball as well, and Susan's telling the coach, Val Halloran, "Oh, I took Billy out to play tennis." She goes, "Oh, they have free instruction here every Tuesday." And I'm like, now we're talking.
Okay, so of course today in the 5th grade, if you're going to be a professional tennis player, you've probably already been playing for 5 years or so.
Most of them today, yes, but
right, so
but I knew the first day I went out with Clyde, which was the second time I picked up a racket. At the end of that, I knew I wanted to be number 1 in the world. And my poor mother, who picked me up, I said, "Mom, I want to be number 1 in the world." And she's going, "That's nice, but you have homework." Right. You have, it's like my mother was the one that always kept us very on an even keel. Dad was more up and more modulation to his personality.
But at some point, you had to pay for lessons. Your parents said, "How did they get the money
never
for
paid
that?"
a
Never
dime
paid for lessons.
anything, no.
Okay.
Well, first of all, my generation, we couldn't afford coaching, so
Well,
as we were on the tour, we all helped each other. Like
when did you?
Chris Evert, Martina, those 2 you saw. We were all helping each other. Well, actually, my generation was helping them the most.
But at some point when you're playing, you must realize that you're better than the average person. So when did you realize you actually were better than the people you were playing with, and that you might actually be good enough to be the best in California, the country, the world? When did you first come to that realization?
Well, I think first you have the hope. And then when I was 13, I saw Althea Gibson play at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. That's kind of the hub for Southern California tennis in those days. And, I have, if you can see it, you can be it. And I remember seeing Althea. Now I know what number 1 looked like, how good you have to be. I thought, wow, I got a lot of work to do. God, I was like, I just couldn't wait to go work. Because the one thing my dad always taught us was that every generation gets better. So I'm looking at how well she plays, and yet I'm younger. I'm going to have to get better than that to be number 1? Oh, my God, how am I going to do that? So anyway, it was so inspiring, though. And, of course, she's our Jackie Robinson of tennis. Althea was the first African-American to ever win a major, and African Americans weren't allowed to play in any sanctioned tennis tournament until 1950, which is 3 years after Jackie Robinson had played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. So she is definitely our Jackie Robinson of tennis. And then, of course, we know about Arthur Ashe, the wonderful Arthur Ashe, who came later and who won the first actually Open. And no one understands what the Open means, though. They say, "Oh, it's 50th anniversary of Open tennis."
Originally it was.
And I asked the players, I asked people, "Do you know what Open tennis?" I'll ask you. Do you know what that means? Open tennis? And everybody looks at me and gets this stare. Occasionally, no, not even occasionally. I know people here know, because I know I've got tennis friends here tonight who it's been great to see them. I'm glad they're here, but I can't start talking about each one. We'll be here all night. But it's 50 years of professional tennis. It was the first time we got paid money to win a tournament that wasn't under the table. It was great. It was from amateurism when we were making $14 or $28 if we stayed in a hotel. And I fought against amateurism. I fought like crazy, got in big trouble for that. But in 1968, we finally received a check. At Wimbledon, Rod Laver won the men's singles and won 2,000 pounds, and then I won 750 pounds as a woman. And I'm like, oh God, not another thing to worry about.
So when
why don't they just do it in the first place? It's like, why do we have to go through this? I always ask myself.
When you started playing, you won tournaments in.
No, but what is the problem here? Just do the right thing, right?
You were winning tournaments in California, and then you were winning national tournaments. When did you first win a Grand Slam?
Well, doubles in 1961, which, I prefer doubles over singles. I like mixed doubles, then women's doubles, and then women's singles. And I think they're both, I mean, all those three experiences bring something different to the table, and it's exciting. But I like collaboration. I like team. I grew up in all team sports. I played basketball as my first love, softball. I played baseball, but if you're a girl, they make you go and play softball, which isn't right either. That's a whole nother discussion. I've talked to the Dodgers about that. No. And then,
So why?
And then, so all these things drive you crazy, you know, a little crazy. Well, just reverse it. All right, just the men here, you just reverse it. You got 750 pounds, and I got 2,000. Do you think that's right? It's not right. It just isn't right.
Now today, many of the leading tennis players do not play doubles or mixed doubles. You
I know.
played mixed doubles, doubles, and singles.
Yeah, but
all
I'd
in the
be
same
so
tournament.
bored the way they do it.
So why do you think players today who are great players don't want to play doubles or mixed doubles?
Money, and it's much more demanding physically than it used to be. But it's about money, really. And everyone only cares about players in tennis that are great in singles. And so now we have specialists of doubles more so, and then we have the singles players. In the old days, what I call the A players, which was we played everything. I think you almost have to have an asterisk to say it's different, because all the number one players today don't play very many doubles.
So when you were coming up, who was the number one woman tennis player in the world before you?
When I was coming up, right before me, Maria Bueno.
Okay, and then you ultimately beat her?
She's the one I had to beat in 1966 to win my first singles at Wimbledon.
Okay, and as you look at your career, who are the best women tennis players that you played against or that you have ever observed?
It's all the number ones of each generation. I beat Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova, which had the greatest probably tennis rivalry of all time. If they had been two men, we would be hearing about it constantly. But they were amazing too, and had such a contrast of styles. You've got one who defected from, at that time, Czechoslovakia. You've got, Chris America here from Florida, next door neighbor. Chris is a baseliner, this one's a serve and volleyer, and they're just clashing. And the contrast of style was really what made it so interesting.
And what about men players? You played mixed doubles, but what about the ones you've observed? Who are the greatest men players that you observed in your
singles?
Singles?
Oh, it's all the same characters. Like Rod Laver's the all-time great, probably one of them. Federer, I think, is the all-time great. Nadal's right there, just side by side. I think Jimmy Connors was probably one guy I loved to go watch. He was so intense. He was crazy. But I love the way he's so competitive. And he just shared everything with the people and got them excited. McEnroe, great hands, great competitor. Probably didn't take as good a care of himself as he could have. He probably could have won a lot more. He stopped winning around 26. Right. Bjorn Borg quit at 25, 26. He was a tremendous player. Sampras, unbelievable, best serve ever. Greatest second serve. You're only as good as your second serve. Unbelievable second serve. Agassi, the best returner. But Nadal and Federer, I just think each generation gets better. It's just same with Sellis, Graf, Sellis, Hingis, all these great women players.
So let me ask you a few tennis questions. As an amateur, I'm not really a great tennis player, obviously. Nobody would suspect that I am. I play, maybe my annual game and so forth, but...
Annual?
Why?
We know you're not a great player then.
So, when I watch tennis, I wonder, why do the players bounce the ball? And is there a thing about how many times you're supposed to bounce it before you serve? What's all that? What does the bouncing do? What is all that about?
That is totally up to the person, and it's an inner rhythm. It's one thing when you have a player that wants to be really great, we talk about you have to have your rituals, because there's that it's a sense of inner rhythm inside your soul, whoever you might be. And I used to bounce it twice.
But does it make the ball...
The younger players had to bounce it forever. In fact, the women tennis players would sit in the locker room. Let's say we're at the U.S. Open or Wimbledon. You can see it on the TV. When Jimmy Connors played, we used to count how many times to bounce the ball. It would be 17, 18. Now we have a service clock. Only 25 seconds. And the players are having trouble. Nadal's one of them who has to pick, And we won't go to the other one. And the wedgie, I call it the wedgie. It's like Everyone has this inner time, this inner rhythm, and it's very ritualistic. And they've proven when you do have your rituals, it helps. For instance, if I was really nervous and and recognized it, the most important thing is take ownership and say, I am nervous. A lot of players go, I'm fine. You know, so what I would do is try to slow down, because we usually rush. Our minds start to race. So if you bounce the ball twice, I would do it. This is the one time I would repeat that ritual. I'd bounce it again twice, and I'd try to really slow down. Because when you think you're going like this, and you're really going, and so you have to because if you see it later, you go, God, I was rushing. So you really have to understand and be self-aware of what you're doing.
And do you think the tennis game is better when you have the kind of TV camera that can show you the ball is out or not out?
I love it.
And that eliminates or reduces complaining?
It reduces anxiety from the players, but it also helps the lines people. And it also helps, in fact, in World Team Tennis this year, we had no lines people. We only had an umpire. We had just cameras, and the triangulation of 12 different cameras, and you'd hear an out or an out by a female or a male voice, and it worked out unbelievable. And the players would start to argue, so they'd show it up on the screen, and they call it right every time, so bad luck.
So you think...
the thing I didn't like is we're costing jobs with the Lions people. That's my challenge, but I prefer this way as far as keeping it absolutely clear on who really won and who didn't.
Well, without the cameras or with the cameras, do you think fighting with the umpires makes a difference? Does it help you, hurt you? Any case in mind that you think of recently?
Well, some people think it depends on your personality. You have to. That's self-awareness again. Someone like John McEnroe got him all hyped up, and he played better.
So recently, obviously, I was referring to Serena Williams. Do you have any comment on whether you think the umpire there was sexist or something else?
I think he has a low emotional IQ.
Okay, all right.
And I mean that in the best of ways. I'm not saying that. He is very straightforward. He's very strict. But here's what most of the time the umpires do. And I talked to Serena on the phone, so I know for a fact. Because I said, did you understand you got a warning that first time? And she said, no. Because I knew she didn't understand. So when she broke her racket, she thought that was when she was going to get a warning. That was the point. And she's like, what do you mean, isn't that a warning? And so I knew then she'd been so mixed up from day one. But she kept wanting him to apologize. The one thing with Venus and Serena, they never argue with the linesman, except Serena's had trouble with the U.S. Open. She got a horrible call against Capriati that cost her the championship. Horrible call. The umpire overruled. That started it back when she was a young girl. Then she got upset with the linesman when she was totally out of line. She was out of line. She knows she was out of line. But the point is, he could have just nipped this in the bud, I thought, if he, first of all, would have given a cautionary warning, because you have no control over the coach. The player has no control over what the coach does.
Well,
she doesn't even look. She and Venus do not care what the coaches do. But I know that because I know that about them. So what she didn't like is her character, her honesty was being attacked. And I knew, and she said, you have to apologize to me. And I'm thinking, I said to her, you know he can't apologize, but here's what he could have done. First of all, he should have given him a cautionary warning, which he did not do, which they usually do. Secondly, I am not attacking your honesty or character. That is the same as apologizing without apologizing. That's the emotional IQ. That's all he had to say. I think she could have reset. But she's got centuries. She's African American. I am not. But I know they feel, I've listened, if you listen and have empathy, you listen to their anguish and what they've been through, and all of what was coming out of us is just centuries of but particularly black women. They've done studies in businesses. When a black woman gets upset and gets angry, she's out of there. Now, if you're a black male and you kind of get boisterous and all that, they think, oh, you're good, you're aggressive, you're good. But they have done all kinds of studies. So first of all, people don't like to see it because she's a black woman. They can't stand it. But between the umpire, and here's another thing, tennis is just clueless, okay? This is where my sport, I love my sport. It's done more for me than anything, but it just gets me crazy. Communicate with the fans. The fans were booing. They didn't even know what they were booing about. They don't know what's going on down there. Now, if you're watching TV, you can hear, but and I watched it live, so I couldn't tell exactly. I was picking up on things, but I could tell by the body language a lot was going on.
Now, is there coaching from the sidelines a lot? And what can a coach really do?
First of all, I'd let coaching happen. Who cares?
But what can they really tell you? Work harder, hit
no,
the ball
go to
better?
net.
What can they really?
No.
What can they really
here's
tell
what
you?
they do. Like you could say this could be a lob, or you could say go to their forehand or go to net or whatever. I guess he was saying go to. I don't know what he was doing. Thumbs up. I don't even know what that would have meant. She said I don't. He was first of all he's on the other side of the net from her. It's like. So anyway, I did an op-ed in the Washington Post on, if you want to hear what I was saying. Everybody thinks I'm sticking up for her. I am sticking up for her, but I didn't tell her that she was. When we talked, I said, "You know, you're out of line, right?" And she goes, "Oh yeah."
What about the?
I couldn't see Billy. I just couldn't see it. I was just crazed. I said, "I know. I've been there because I've done the same thing."
She wanted to wear a certain outfit, a Catwoman outfit.
That was for but that's for fun. That's for function, not form.
But why was that
She has blood clots. So
why was it objectionable? Do you think they made a mistake in not letting her wear that?
Yeah, she's already talked to the Frenchman. The guy who's the head of the French. I can't remember his name right now, but she's good friends with him, so they've worked that out.
Let me ask you another question about tennis that I don't know. When you're playing baseball, and your brother played baseball, you can have somebody throwing a ball at 100 miles an hour, and it could hit somebody in the head. People are cheering, yelling, and screaming. When you're a tennis player, nothing is coming at you, but if anybody says anything when you're tossing the ball up, people get upset.
I don't agree with that either.
So
team tennis, I don't care.
Why does there have to be so much silence?
I think tennis has got it all wrong. They think the fans are there to watch them. I tell the players, no, we're there to entertain them. Without the fans, we have nothing.
Right.
Either watching on TV or other phones now or whatever. But we are entertainers. Our job is to leave our guts on the court, not only for ourselves, but for them. The audience is everything. But all tennis players get this because it's an individual sports. People, that's what they judge it on, which I don't, but the world does. And they're going, oh, they're all here to see me. And I'm like, how do you think you get paid? I mean, it's hello. I don't understand the players or athletes when they get like that.
So talk about money, for example. When you first started playing, as you pointed out, players
$14 a day.
They weren't paid very much.
Expense money.
If I have my numbers right, you won 129 career titles.
I don't know. I don't care about that.
39 Grand Slam titles. But your grand total money that you won, according to the statistics, is about $1.9 million.
That's correct.
Today, you would probably win almost that much for winning one tournament.
Oh, I would win that for sure because the winner of the Open got $3.8 million. So yes, I definitely would have.
So have you noticed that this?
I know there's inflation, but still, it's a lot better.
So did you think this is because women weren't getting paid as much, or just the inflation has just made prizes just much bigger than they were when you were playing, or when you were playing?
No, we got equal prize money in 1973. In fact, there was Billy Talbert on this. I just looked. I saw everything in reverse. I've never seen it. The video, and the guy with the glasses who's reading something. He was a great player in the late 40s, and I went and talked to him in 1972, one-on-one, quietly, calmly. This is what you always try behind the scenes first. When you go to the media, it's last resort. That's another thing. When you go to the media, it is last resort. So I had a meeting with Billy, but before I went to the meeting, Cece Martinez had done a survey. She'd just been studying how to I'm sure it was very elementary, but she passed it to the fans at the U.S. Open in 1972 to find out. I said, I want information. Do they think we should be here? Should we get equal prize money? Are they for that? Just get some information. So she did that. Ismay Emanuel, another player, helped pass it out for 2 days. She just kept getting information. Another thing I went to is I said, if I'm going to go meet with Billy Talbert, and my former husband and I already own tournaments by now, okay? So I'm a businesswoman, so I understand the sponsor side. I understand the challenges, the risk. So I go, I need what I would like, ideally, and I went to Joseph Coleman of Philip Morris, to Marvin Kozol and others at Bristol Myers and some others, and I said, I would like to take, if any of you would put up the money to make up the difference from what we're getting now and if we got the equal prize money with the men, would you be willing to do that? Because I don't want to just go and ask without bringing something to the table. So I had two things. The survey came out much more positive than we thought. Well, that was good. But then I said, and Billy, And he's a great business guy himself, and he married a woman that's very wealthy, and her dad had been great in business, Nancy. And I said, we have Bandy owner, which is Bristol Myers, willing to make up the difference in the prize money. He went, just like it feels right now. He got real quiet. He was in shock, because what are you going to say when someone's willing to bring a sponsor to the table for you? He's the one that announced it. I thought the board of directors of the USTA had passed it, and I've been looking into it more and more lately because I might do a book. So now I'm finding out they never voted on it. He just announced it. So without Billy Talbert, we would have never had. So in '72, I said, we're not playing next year. I'm going to try to get the women not to play next year in '72, and that's when I met with him. And by the spring or whatever, he'd announced it, or maybe summer, he announced that there's going to be equal prize money.
No.
So Billy Talbert, I mean, this is why when people are in leadership positions, men usually are, not always, but usually, they can change things overnight. He changed from 60 or 50% or whatever we were getting them in overnight because he just did it. And that's what CEOs can do. People can do it. And everyone's an influencer, and people have to speak up. But this could happen so quickly. But people don't like to give up power. They just need to do
You
this.
played professional tennis for quite a number of years. Why did you actually decide to retire? Was it your knees or just harder to compete?
No, I was anxious to go into business, and I wasn't winning, but you have to ask yourself. Bill Bradley, who played for the Knicks, was great about this. I read his book, and he talked about full circle in sports. Like they always tell you, get out on top, get out on top. I did that. It was a mistake. I could have won big one more year, and I didn't do it. And that was because I bought into that. I had everyone saying you should get out when I won Wimbledon in '75. I go, okay, I retire and all. I should have never done that. I was beating Martina and Chris in practice. Chris says, why are you still playing? I said, good question. So it was a big mistake. I could have won one more year. Not that after that, '77, it was over to win really big.
Now, did your parents live to see your great success in tennis?
Yeah, but they only went to Wimbledon once. They did go to the King Riggs match. I begged them both times.
And did they say, we always knew you were going to be a champion, or they?
No, my parents were really good. My parents were unbelievable. My dad particularly, because he was the jock. And my mother is a jock, but you never knew it because she's a woman. And a woman of her generation didn't talk about themselves. She told me when she was 80, I just wanted to tell you I beat the boys running, I did this. I go, why didn't you tell me when you were younger? She says, I like your dad to have all the focus and let everybody talk about your dad. He was a really good basketball player. He was asked to join the NBA when it first started. In '48, I'm named after him because he was in World War II. In 1943, I was born, so.
Yes, I said you.
My mom didn't know if he was going to come home, but so he's the jock. So he sat with me. He was brilliant. He never let me read a clipping after 15 years of age because I got upset. The newspaper put me on the front page of the sports for the first time, Long Beach Press Telegram, when I lost Love and Love. And I've won tournaments, I've won this, I finally make the front page, and I go, stop. He says, what's that match about? I said, what do you mean? Well, he said, well, when did it happen? I said, yesterday. He says, exactly, it was about yesterday. Forget it. It's what you do with your life today that matters, and tomorrow. So I don't want you ever to read your clippings, look at you're not allowed to do any of that anymore. I stopped that day, he made sense to me. Right. He was correct. Another thing he taught me, they never asked Randy and me if we won, ever. You know how your kid walks in, well, did you win? Oh my God, it's the worst. Don't go there. They'll tell you how they did. Believe me. My dad would say, how'd you do? Of course, I'd be, I lost. And I'm like, and he's going, and he goes, calm down.
Your brother was a professional baseball player.
Randy's a hothead too.
But was he jealous that he was a good player? But
no. He and I always supported. He was the best. Every weekend he'd get up and count my trophies. He'd say, "Mom, Dad, Billie Jean's up to na." And I'd go like this. I wouldn't, and then I'd go to his little league Kiwanis T-shirt league when he was 7. Watch him play. It was a miracle if somebody could actually pitch it, hit it, catch it, and then somebody throw it to first. And I was thinking about that the other night watching the Dodgers, and the Padres. No, but I remember Randy when he was 7, and I remember everybody would stand up, all the parents and all of us would stand up if they made a play like that. And I thought, look look at all the years of practice these guys have done. Look how well they throw. Look how well they hit. I mean, you know, you go back to when Randy was 7 and you look at him then, you think, wow, all that practice, all that repetition, all that gutsing it out every day. Look how great they become.
So you've won in your professional career more than 80% of your professional matches, which is a pretty good percentage. But the one that gets the most attention is not the 39 Grand Slams, but a match.
It's about a guy, baby.
You had a match in 1973 against somebody named Bobby Riggs. 90 million people watched it, probably the most watched tennis match in history, certainly at that time, maybe forever.
I think it still is, probably.
Margaret Court had played him earlier and lost.
Yes.
So why did you agree to play him? Were you ever worried you could lose? And what kind of person was he?
He kept asking me to play for 2 years, and I turned him down. So then he got Margaret to play, and when I saw Margaret in Detroit, when she told me, I go, or wherever it was, I go, Margaret, you have to win. Now you have to remember she's Australian, and she's, well, we're different. And so,
so
I said, you have to win. And I said, this is much more meaning, has much more meaning than a tennis match. She's kind of looking, okay. So she went out there and she didn't really, I don't think she prepared herself for the circus that was going to happen and the way he is. And, you know, I love my history. I knew all about Bobby. He was one of my heroes. I thought he got, a bad deal in getting enough attention for what he deserved because his the sweet spot of his career was the Second World War, and I felt bad for him, but I respected him because I love my history. I knew every champion. I'd watched everything. I'd read everything I could on him. But when Margaret lost, I had to play him. I didn't want to play him. I had to play him.
Right. So you did play him, and was a lot of what he was doing trying to get you riled up?
Yeah, that's good. I love him for that.
And did you practice against men when you were practicing for this, or you practiced against women, or how did you practice?
No, I just practiced. I had Pete Collins, who was a touring pro at Hilton Head. I'm sorry, I was a touring pro. He was the tennis director at Hilton Head, Pete Collins. So I went to Hilton Head for 2 weeks because we still had the Virginia Slims tour, by the way. In fact, during the week that I played Bobby, I had to play in the Virginia Slims of Houston, which I don't think most of you probably know that. Wow, it's 2 matches on Monday. We played the match on Thursday, and then it's just.
So did you ever have any doubt you were going to win?
I didn't know. Two months out or 6 weeks out, whenever we announced it, I'm very anxious, not happy. Start visualizing, start thinking about it, start thinking about anything that could go wrong, how I would stay calm and focused, and I have to visualize everything. I just love visualization. And then I would think about getting a bad line call. I'm thinking about the Astrodome, it's got to be high, but I went out to the Astrodome the day before the match. I went up in the stands, I looked at it, I looked at how the court was structured, and how it was put down, in what direction on the baseball field, and I knew there would be no wall behind the court, so the depth perception was going to be shocking, but I knew whatever was for me was going to be for him as well. We'd never played against each other, so I knew, okay, I'd never hit a ball against him, but neither has he hit a ball against me. So I'm like, you know what? Okay. But I went with the limo, with the car that was going to take me, and I went to, one thing you don't want to do is get lost in an arena, okay? No, I'm not kidding, because that can get you crazy. So I wanted to make sure I was very clear on all that. So I went and met every guard, every security guard, but I like to meet everybody, like the administration people, everybody that runs the arena or runs the Astrodome.
At what point in the match did you realize you were better than him and you were going to win?
I never think like that when I'm in a match. It's one ball at a time.
Okay.
One ball at a time.
Right. So
anything can happen.
When you won, enormous amount of attention.
When he jumped over the net, he said, I underestimated you. And we put our arms around each other.
Did he want a rematch, or did he?
Oh, yeah. But I told him before the match, I said, I'm only going to play this once. Because this is about history. It's about equality. Right. I'm explaining these things to him. This is about equality. It's about history. Hey, we're going to make lots of money. And I guess it's not about the money. It's about, I'm like, and he finally understood that at the end of his life. He actually said to me.
That's a good segue into equality and the other part of your life. Now, many professional athletes are great at their sport, but they say, I don't want to get involved in social issues.
You know why? They want to sell things.
So how did you decide you wanted to make more than an athletic career out of your life? You wanted to get involved in social issues?
They know.
When did you decide this was going to be the great cause of the last half of your life, let's say?
When I was 12.
Oh, okay. And, all right.
No, I mean,
so
it
you
said
always
it there.
knew this.
No, when I had my epiphany about white balls, white people only, where's everybody else? So I promised myself that day that's also at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. Then I saw Althea a year later. So I promised myself if I was number one, if I was ever good enough, and I knew tennis was played all over the world. So I thought, this is an amazing opportunity. I wouldn't have used the word platform then, but that's what I was really thinking as a child. I was thinking, I have an opportunity that is amazing, that I can do something greater than just winning tennis matches. If I'm fortunate enough, but I've got to become number one, particularly as a woman, as a girl, that I would say at that age, that I know I probably have no chance for people to listen to me but people always usually talk about boys. I'll give you a perfect example. Even with the Battle of the Sexes movie, okay?
This is the movie that was made about the Bobby Riggs match.
Emma Stone and Steve. Great people,
Who played you in that? Did you get to pick the actress?
Emma Stone. No, I didn't pick anything. You know what? They can do a movie on any of you. You have no say. And movies are stories. They're not documentaries. They're very different things. So anyway.
So in your tennis.
Okay, here's what a guy will come up and say. This is so typical. They have to talk about Steve and about Bobby. Haven't mentioned the girls yet. And they'll say, you're really tough on Jack Kramer. Now, I didn't do this movie, by the way. I thought they were a little tough on Jack Kramer. You know, I remember when I was 20, he gave me a $5,000, he helped me out and all that. He's right. But the old boy Neckert is who he's helped. He never helped the girls. He didn't care about the girls, Jack Kramer. So the boys have this focus about themselves and about Jack. They never once say, well, what was it like? Or it's amazing. It's all about themselves. I have not had one guy come up to me yet, without them saying, God, the tennis guys, you were rough on Jack. First of all, I didn't do the movie. And secondly, he was great with the guys. He was a wonderful friend, and we made amends later. I made sure I made that up. No, I made amends with him in 1984. But the point is, it's like, get out of ourselves. When I talk to people, I don't talk about just the girls. I mean, I talk about, if I'm talking to you, I want to know about you.
Right. Well, in your tennis career, you had, as I said, won 80% of your matches, 129 career titles, 39 Grand Slams.
You like numbers. That's why.
Right? And so you must be proud of that. The U.S. Tennis Association named their stadium
I know, that was another
after
shock.
You must be very proud of that.
I am. I think it's amazing, and I think Arthur and I are really fortunate. Arthur Ashe, it's his stadium, and it was 1997. We had the Parade of Champions out on that court. There was a wonderful night. I'm sorry that Arthur wasn't alive. I still wish he were, because I think we all miss him, and I miss him, and he gave so much to humanity and cared. He and I were born the same year. He's 4 months older. We cared about the same things, actually, quite a bit.
Speaking of being born, you're going to be celebrating a birthday soon.
Yeah, 75.
75, so...
He's trying to be polite.
Right. In your tennis career, we've talked about that, but in your career as a pioneer for inclusion, equality, social justice, what would you say you're most proud of having achieved to date, and what is your next objective or goal?
I don't really think like that at all. I think about, I'm not done yet. That's what I go, I'm not done yet. Okay. And I think about, personally, with me, I always think about the people who got me there. Like when I got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, for instance, or getting the name of the facility at the U.S. Open. When you go back over your life, first of all, my mom and dad, I got lucky with them, and Randy and I always know that. I had Reverend Bob Richards, who won the bronze 48, gold 52, 56 in the pole vault as our minister for 4 or 5 years at the church we attended, Church of the Brethren. Do you realize that every sermon that Reverend Richards or Bob, and he was the first guy on the Wheaties box. Right. If you're more my age, you might remember that. If you're children, you have to look it up. So, anyway, okay, every Sunday in his sermon he mentioned sports, and he would be so inspiring. He would tell sports stories that you think you could do anything after you left that church. So that was wonderful for 4 or 5 years. I used to go watch him train in this dirt field next to the church, and watch him work, his hurdles, his weights, his sprints, and those pole vaults in those days did not bend one little bit, okay? So that's really getting your body weight over. And he jumped over 15 feet more than anybody else. So I get that from about 11 to 15. Then I have wonderful teachers, Mrs. Hunter in 3rd, Mr. Bamrick in 6th, Mr. Mays in 9th, and Mrs. Johnson in 12th. And then I had the Long Beach tennis patrons and the Long Beach Century Club who helped give me money to go back east to start playing junior tennis in Philadelphia, most of it in those days. And then the other, Mr. Guyver and those same two people, the Long Beach tennis patrons and the Century Club, sent me to Wimbledon for the first time. If I didn't have, talk about it takes a village, it does. Because if I don't have all these different steps in my life, I couldn't have made it. So just think about what that took to get me just to be standing there winning at Wimbledon or this facility or whatever. My mom was there that night. My dad had just passed away 2 months earlier. Ilana, my partner, was there. I mean, she's here tonight, wherever you are, Ilana. And so I was really lucky.
So, for example, the Equal Rights Amendment has never been ratified by the states.
I think we're one state short, aren't we?
That's one state short. Is that something you're focused on or not?
I'd like to see the word woman in the Constitution someplace. That'd be nice.
Okay. And you have been a fighter for AIDS and the prevention of AIDS, and that's been a major cause.
Lana and I are founding board members of the Elton John AIDS Foundation. I founded the Women's Sports Foundation in '74. Donna De Verona was our first president. And we've given away $80 million, invested, not given, invested in others. We are the one women's sports that does research. There's no research on us, and we were the first ones to start doing that. We're also the guardian angels of Title IX for the sports part.
Now, you started with your partner. You started the Billie Jean King Leadership Initiative.
Yes, we did. It's not we. It was Lana and I and probably 8 others.
And what is that designed to do?
That is to help for equality in the workplace, and it means not just by money. It means by culture. It means by color, by race. It means by just everyone being able to be their authentic self to go to work. They've done all kinds. Deloitte did this research with us about being your authentic self when you go to work. So if you grew up poor and you're ashamed of it and you can't talk about it, like this one guy had all these university diplomas up and he's talking about this and that. He never would talk about his beginnings. Like, you've got to be your authentic self.
So, as we said, you're going to be celebrating your 75th birthday.
Why do you keep saying this?
In November. Well, I'm just wondering if you're going to have a big party, celebration. How are you going to celebrate this?
Actually, we're going to have a kind of a fundraiser party, fun. Okay. It's not big enough, but at the New York Historical Society, actually.
Okay.
And, they also do a lot of exchanging with Smithsonian, so that works out great. I like it when all of them help each other, I think it's really important.
What do you do to stay in shape now? You don't play tennis as much.
I haven't been doing much. I've been having this sinus condition, but what I could be doing eventually, because I got to be honest, so, is I actually like, let's put it this way, this is when I can get done. Okay. And the doctors are great about this. They always say, whatever you do, just whatever you can do, just do it. Don't worry about it's the newest and greatest thing. So I like to do the bike because I've had 8 knee operations, so I don't like to be pounding.
8.
So I do the bike, but I try to do at least 2 to 3 minutes of sprints in intervals because you want to get that difference of heartbeat. And then I think lifting weights is hugely, or weight resistance is hugely important as you get older, especially for women with osteoporosis. And then I think yoga is great, but I can't stand to get on my knees also. I'd have to, I think Pilates, I think whatever works for you.
So,
but for me, it's the bike and weights. If I just get that done, and I like to stretch after.
Now, I was not a great athlete when I was younger, but the result is I have no...
But you're a great one now?
No, but I have... No, well, relatively. I have no artificial body parts. I have no knee replacement. I have nothing. So the advantage is that now I can get the revenge of the nerds. I can play my...
Oh, you can kill us.
But, so how about if we have...
Don't you know the nerds rule?
Well,
I love nerds.
Now that you've
I
had
love nerds in elementary school. I love the nerds. They're so smart. I like smart.
So
I learn from you.
Well, you've had 8 knee operations. I've had none. Maybe we could have a Bobby Riggs match where I could play you now, right? So,
you would probably beat me if you don't have any artificial parts to it.
I need a lot of help. If I had a partner and you were the only one, you're one against two of us, I might have a chance, but I don't know. So today, when you look back on your life, what are you most proud of? Your tennis career, your career as a social pioneer, what would you say you're most proud of?
Well, they go hand in hand, but probably the off-the-court stuff is more important to me. It's always been more important to me. I mean, from that time I was 12, I figured, I was pretty clear on that as a kid, which, you listen to young people, and they've done research on this too, that anywhere from like 9 to 12, kids really do know what they want to do. They really have these dreams, and they think anything is possible at that age, and it's true. And a lot of times, and some people don't decide that way. But Emma Stone, at 6 years old, announced to her family, "I'm going to be an actor." And they're thinking, okay. And at 15, she did a PowerPoint presentation that, Mom and Dad, I've got to go to LA if I'm going to be she's been acting up from 6 to 15 now. This isn't like, she was getting, rejected a lot. If you're an actor, one thing, my dad and my parents and other people have taught me is never take anything personally. And that's one of the greatest things you can teach somebody. Well, do you think I could have survived the tennis community, not the tennis community, they've been great, but the authorities? And you think and I always start over every 2 years when we get a new president or whatever. Of course, people think I'm crazy, but I don't care. I'm very big on forgiveness. I'm very big on, because that allows you to move on. But if you take things personally, it just hinders your life.
That perspective is one you should bring to Washington, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be fun.
All right. So,
would you explain to me why we cannot care about the people anymore, and why we have these like 2 sports teams trying to win? What are you winning? You're not. Are the American people winning? That's all I want to know. What is wrong with us?
Have you thought of ever running for office? Have you ever thought of running for office?
I thought about it in the 70s because of my sexuality challenges. I did not, because you have to tell the truth if you're going to run in politics. Then if you don't tell the truth, you're toast.
All right, but today that wouldn't be a challenge, so.
I didn't know that then. I wouldn't want to be that kind of candidate. I want to be honest with my constituents and the people of America, because we're, having democracy, we have to, it's a huge responsibility. So I thought, I know I probably could have won, but I was going through such turmoil with my sexuality in the 70s. That's when I should have run if I was going to run, or at least right at the end of it. I couldn't do it because it wouldn't be right to the American people, because it wouldn't be right.
Well, if you ever change your mind, I know you have a lot of
At
supporters.
75?
Well, there are some people running much older than that.
People keep telling me, I know, what's Biden? No, he's not as old. How old is Biden now?
Well, there are some people who are older than you who are running. Biden is roughly your age.
I think it gets a little tough.
Well, in any event.
Also, just like millennials and Gen Z, for instance, are the greatest generations for inclusion. They are, I love them because of this. They are the greatest generations ever for inclusion. And that's what I wish the ones in Washington could think about a little. That just, but I just want, your job is to worry about your constituents and your country.
Well, on behalf of all Americans, let me thank you for the great career you've had in tennis and in social pioneering. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay? We're going to give you a medal now.
Yeah, no. Thank you. Oh, there you are. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for supporting the Smithsonian, and particularly our American History Museum.
Okay.
Natural Museum, what? Natural Museum of National History, or American History. American History. No, wait a minute, I know what it is. I had it before, and now I've got it. Anyway, you know what I mean. I'm dyslexic, can you tell? No, I am. No, but I am. Anyway, thank you. I know, I can't wait. My Olympics.
Wonderful job.
Thanks, Dave. How are you, David?
Good job, David.
I have no idea what I said.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good job.
I never do, though. I just speak from my heart.
Well, first of all, let's hear it one more time for this great conversation we had.
Thank you.
And if I can say on behalf of the Smithsonian, you handled David really well tonight. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
That was fabulous. Well, now we're going to present you with the Great Americans Medal, and I'm going to read this, and David's going to present you with a medal. And it says, the National Museum of American History proudly presents the Great Americans Medal to Billie Jean King for shattering gender stereotypes in sports, for her courage in demanding equal pay, for her leadership in the fight for women's and LGBTQ rights, both on and off the court, for responding to the AIDS crisis with fundraising and personal support, for empowering women, and for her lifetime commitment to these causes and ideals of equality and justice. Through these values and achievements, she defines service at the highest level and the true meaning of a great American, September 25, 2018. Congratulations.
Let me put this on you. Okay, go ahead. Picture.
Wow, this is beautiful. Just thank you to everyone. Wow, I'm just looking at it. Great American, that's, gosh. What?
So they can see that.
Yeah. I want to get this, wait a minute. Is the medal showing though? Otherwise it's going to look terrible. No, I didn't want to get, is the glare not on this? Okay. I know what they were going to ask, so.
Okay.
Thank you, David and David.
And we have this other thing.
Wow.
We have one other thing for you right now.
Oh, this is great. This is great.
Billie Jean King, it is now my privilege on behalf of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History to present you with this special gift, a reproduction of Susan B. Anthony's gavel, to honor your deep commitment to equality.
I was just talking about Alice Paul and Susan B. Anthony earlier, and I also have had the opportunity to go to their Susan B. Anthony luncheon up in Rochester, and also to see her home and her museum. So I felt like I was channeling her that day, or she was channeling me anyway. And this could not be any more meaningful to me than this. So thank you so much for giving me this gavel. I'm just dying to use it, though.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, we have a reception.
Thank you. Wait a minute, I just have to, come on, we gotta
Thank
go.
you. All right, great. All right, thank you. There you go.
I think it was that way, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for caring about Smithsonian. It means a lot to me. Thank you to all of my friends that I got to see tonight. It's great. It's just great to see the two Davids here.
Partners?
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
You want to introduce your partner?
What?
You want to introduce
Well, I tried to introduce Ilana earlier, but I didn't know where she was, but now I know where you are. He's down here.
Come on up.
Come on up. Come up. Ilana Plott is from South Africa originally. She came to America to play on the tour, and she was #1 in the world in '76. She's in the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and in the Jewish Hall of Fame, and she won the Maccabi or Maccabi. If you're Jewish out there, you'll appreciate what I'm saying. And also, no, that's all right. And she's been a great partner. We've been together 39 years. Woo!
All right. Okay.
Not quite.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Such an honor to be here
Thank you.
with all of you. And remember, every one of you is an influencer. Every single one of you.